But, but, there are lemonade stands all over town, said Evan. He thought of Jessie and Megan's lemonade stand. When he'd wheeled by with his wagon more than an hour ago, their stand had looked like a beehive with small kids crowding all around. He had read the sign over the stand: free face painting, nail polishing, hair braiding. What a gimmick! But it sure looked like it was working. You know, said Evan, there's a stand on Damon Road right now. You should go bust them. Officer Ken smiled. We tend to look the other way when it's a residential neighborhood, but right here on the town green, we have to enforce the law. Otherwise, we'd have someone selling something every 2 feet. But there had to be some way to convince Officer Ken. How could Evan make him understand? You see, I've got this little sister, and we've got a competition going to see who can sell the most lemonade. And I've got to win because he couldn't explain the rest. About fourth grade and about how embarrassed he was to be in the same class as his kid sister and how it made him feel like a great big loser. Evan looked up at Officer Ken. Officer Ken looked down at Evan. It was like Officer Ken was wearing a mask, a no smiling, I'm not your buddy mask. Then Officer Ken shook his head and smiled, and the mask fell off. I've got a little sister too, he said. Love her to death now. But when we were kids, Officer Ken sucked in his breath and shook his head again. Whew. Then the mask came back, and Officer Ken looked right at Evan for 10 very stern seconds. Tell you what, said Officer Ken, I do have to shut you down. The law's the law. But before I do, I'll buy one glass of lemonade. How's that sound? Evan's face fell. Sure, he said, without enthusiasm. He poured an extra tall cup and he gave it to the policeman. Officer Ken reached into his pocket and handed Evan a $5 bill. Keep the change, he said. A contribution to the Big Brother Fund. Now clean up your things and don't leave any litter behind. He lifted his cup in a toast as he walked away. Evan watched him go. Wow, he thought. I just sold the most expensive cup of lemonade in town. Evan stared at the $5 bill in his hand. It was funny. 2 days ago, he would have felt as rich as a king to have that money in his hands. It was enough to buy 2 slices of pizza and a soda with his friends. It was enough to rent a video and have a late night at someone's house. It was enough to buy a whole bag full of his favorite candy mix at CVS. 2 days ago, he would have been jumping for joy. Now he looked at $5 and thought, it's nothing compared to the $100 he needed to win the war. $5 was nothing. He felt somehow that he'd been robbed of something, maybe the happiness he should have been feeling. He loaded everything from his stand into the wagon, making sure he didn't leave a scrap of litter behind. He still had a glassful of lemonade left in one pitcher, not to mention another whole pitcher already mixed up and unsold. So he poured himself a full cup. Then, before beginning the long haul back to his house, he found an empty spot on a shaded bench and pulled his earnings out of his pocket. He counted once. He counted twice, very slowly. He had made $65. The cups and the lemonade mix had cost him $9. When he added in the earnings from Wednesday and Thursday, he had $103.11. Now that's enough, he thought.